were always instructed that CEOs were off limits, right? It was always separate from the rest of the organization. And some individuals that I have met recently, like yourself, who are breaking that mold. You are showing a different way of being a leader, that it isn't, I'm separate from the rest of the organization and everyone under me takes care of whatever is going on. It's showing those who are building up the organizations that they matter. Hi, and welcome to the Heart Leader Podcast, where heart and mind align. I'm your host, Amber, and today I have Tim Lupinacci. So as someone who is after my own heart with what we do here at Suivera, Tim, I am very grateful that you were willing to come and join us and talk about your mission, about your business, and just about being out there and being a heart leader. So thank you for joining us on the show.
Oh, Amber, I'm delighted. I've been really looking forward to this because you've already encouraged and poured into me through your podcast and through your material. So I'm very excited to be here today. So thank you.
I really want to talk about, because we have so many leaders who are in management positions or are in community level positions. They really desire to be heart leaders, to lead from that heart position, but they struggle with getting individuals to be inspired enough to follow the cause. And here you are, you've got all of these missions that are driving forward between your business, your nonprofit. How, as a heart leader, are you connecting with all of these people across diverse locations and getting them rallied behind these missions to actually, as a heart leader, follow and say, okay, I'm on board with these missions, let's go?
Yeah, well, it's a great question, and it's something that I really work hard at doing, because I think that is the way that adds most value to our clients and to us as an organization, is that we have everyone engaged and following and understand what we're doing. So a couple things I'll say about the business, particularly, I've been in this role 4 years, and in the first town hall we did after it was announced that I would become the next CEO, I did talk about this concept that I viewed all 1,300 individuals at the firm were leaders. And we really needed all of us working together to best serve our clients, which is why we're here, and helping them to achieve their strategic vision. And really started planting that seed which is my fundamental belief, that everyone is part of this. Even if you are sitting at a receptionist desk, or helping in IT and answering a help desk, or actually on the front line, in the boardroom with your clients, everyone has a role to play in what we're doing. So I started with that. And then the last several years, we've really worked hard because, and it's really, I actually loved practicing law full time. And so, and I love what I'm doing now, which is full leadership and leading the firm, because I don't have time to practice. And so, but one of the reasons I decided to maybe pursue this was because I just really believe in our people and really want to help everyone see that they can have this potential to get better and to step up. And so I talk a lot about individuals trying to find their pathway and their purpose in what we're trying to accomplish. And everyone may be different, have different views about what they want, or what their purpose or their pathway is. Some want the pathway to elevated roles and bigger responsibilities. Others just want to make sure that they are giving back through what we're doing to our clients and to our community. And so we've worked a lot to build training and programming that is very inclusive. We do town halls where everyone's included, so and we're very transparent about what things are going, the struggles, particularly during the COVID pandemic. So I think it's just been it's trying to be intentional, to just encourage that everyone can get better every day. We want to help them do that. There's a lot to unpack with that about understanding individuals, passions and what they want to do. But I think that's just a few things that I think probably that I've been passionate about trying to drive forward.
Yeah. And one of the things in your title of your nonprofit is Everybody Leads. And when we talked about that a bit, you talked about the uniqueness of everyone, right, and seeing everyone as unique. And so I would love to hear your perspective about that, because we bonded over that in like 2 seconds.
Right.
So if you can share, I would love to have our community hear that perspective.
Well, sure. And absolutely. And that's what's interesting because like I have had this fundamental belief about everybody being a leader. And it really goes back to a mentor who kind of instilled that in myself when I didn't think of myself as a leader, which is another story. And so that ultimately did lead to what I've been trying to launch a nonprofit around that. But it really is, I've seen it. I mean, it helps us as an organization if we have, unique views, unique perspectives, unique journeys. Everyone's walked a different journey and you bring a different perspective. And what better way to solve problems that our clients are experiencing than, you got to have, there's obviously a basic, you got to have the training and the expertise of a particular area, but different people view things differently. So the uniqueness of it is what I think makes it special in working as a team, and also in giving the best service we can to our clients and really to each other. You do better. Even we talk a lot about when we talk about clients, initially I'd have some people say, well, I don't interact with our clients. Well, we have internal clients because we're all trying to get help our internal teams to then serve our external clients. And so it is, the uniqueness is, it's absolutely right. I learn from individuals who have had completely different walks of life, different journeys, different struggles, challenges, successes, and we get better when we do that. So I know I really did enjoy connecting over that.
Yeah. And the ability to understand, well, this is your strength. And so when you have a strength here and I maybe am not so strong here, then I'm going to step back and I'm going to let you lead the effort when you are able to lead the effort here. But simultaneously, you can't always lead. So be willing to take the step back and let the person who has the strength in the next area step forward. And that's where when we say everybody leads, even if you're just leading in your own life, knowing where you have those strengths can really come in handy. And so a program where you're putting together what are fundamental leadership skills and how do you apply those in your life? So can you talk a little bit about your nonprofit?
Well, and it's interesting talking a little bit about that strength, because that's something that's been on my own journey. When you were talking, I was like, I remember because my predecessor of CEO had a complete handle of numbers and the financials. And that's not one of my strengths, but I felt early on like I had to know all this and be able to just talk. And then I finally realized my strengths are more vision and building the team and getting, buy-in to go conquer the next mountain. And the financials are critically important, but we have people, experts. Our CFO is a Big Four accountant, was a Big Four. He knows that. So I have to know enough about it, but I don't have to beat myself up in an area that's probably a little bit more of a weakness. So I think that you're exactly right. And I think understanding that gives you a little bit more freedom, right? When you know that it's not your strength and you don't have to pretend. So on the nonprofit, so it really, as I was looking ahead, and I love what I'm doing, and I think this season I'm in, I think I'm in the right spot, the right time. As you mentioned, I've got a 5-year strategic vision I'm driving. A friend asked me a question about a year ago or 18 months ago. So what's Tim plus 10 years look like? And at that point, I'm probably hope my vision would be I'd be successfully accomplished the vision and then transitioned, at some point, leadership of the firm to the next generation leader. And then I said, then I've always had this thought about leadership and nonprofits and maybe take what I've learned and help with a nonprofit. And they made the comment, that's great, but you can't start that in 10 years. Why not start planting the seeds now? And that got me, that's a very insightful comment. So it really got me thinking about how I could marry this all together with leadership and nonprofit. And also in talking to some nonprofit leaders that I trust and know, really just came upon this idea of there's so much that we can help each other. I've helped myself in learning and how to be a better leader, teamwork, conflict resolution, some very basic kind of skills that sometimes we take for granted. And as disadvantaged, underadvantaged, underserved areas don't get that access that we've had probably. And so as I've talked to folks like organizations partnering with or seeking to eradicate homelessness, they're doing a lot of incredible work with basic life skills, how to get a driver's license, how can I get a job, and maybe think about housing, in a temporary basis, right? The critical life skills. But then once they get a job, I would be talking to them and say, well, is there training about now you're going into a work situation and conflict resolution, things like that? And some organizations are doing it, and others are saying that would be great to have an organization partner with us to help us with that sort of next step of training about leadership and those teamwork skills. So that kind of built around this idea of a 6-month training where you would partner with another organization, ideally have a project that organization needs to work on. So you're not just doing busy work about leadership, but you're teaching some principles and then applying them as you're helping to prepare individuals to then go out in the workforce. So that's the idea. And so we're at the very early stages. We have a 6-month manual and a lot of in-person and small group type concept just to help people understand and believe that they are a leader and they can be a leader and be a better leader.
There's so much there because it's not only helping the individuals who are going through the program, it's helping the businesses that then get the individuals through the program, because then they come in with those skills already in place. So then the onus isn't on the business to attempt to teach these skills to the individuals. They come with those skills. And so
and a better likelihood of success and longevity, right? That it's not just this organization, the business has maybe, gone out on a limb and say, yes, I will help, someone or individuals coming out of prison, right? I've worked some with inmates in prison about some basic leadership skills, and they're taking a chance. You want that to be successful, right? These other organizations. So yes, totally agree, Amber.
yeah. And then I know part of your program, as you talked about, it's a willingness to fail, but it's failing forward, right? Not failing and going backward and thinking, oh, I've reset. It's failing forward. So speak to us about that concept.
Yes. And that's something I think it took a lot of failing for me to really get to look at that as how do I fail forward? Like you said, that's exactly the right approach, because I think at least I did early on. I felt like I had to, I've got a law degree now. I've got to know it all. I can't make a mistake. And of course, that's just unrealistic. And I talk about that a lot as a leader of even at Baker Donelson, that, I'm going to make mistakes. I want feedback, and I give people the license, call me out on it so I can learn. And again, it's hard because you think, I know this is the right step to take. And then you really, it does fall on deaf ears, or it doesn't work for whatever reason. I didn't think about it. So I get the feedback and learn from it, and then admit that you've made the mistake in the case of I've made a mistake, and then relaunch with a different approach. So, and I think it's a basic concept that it's so hard because we think we have to get it all right. And we think the repercussions of failing means that I'm going to lose my job or I'm going to lose somebody's respect. And I found that it's, as long as you're honest and open to thinking about it and talking about it and learning from it, I think that actually builds respect a little bit, that individuals know that you will listen to feedback and just acknowledge it. So it's not just people talking about it. Well, boy, that was a wild fail. It's more like, okay, well, he understood that. So, and I think it's just trying to build that into folks. I mean, I know entrepreneurs talk about all the time about they want to fail a lot so that then they can learn and get to the end game. I mean, I think most of us aren't wired that way. I know I'm not. Yeah. Failing isn't easy. I know I could. There's some resources out there that say you should be high-fiving. And I mean, I'm just not quite to that point, but I recognize that it's a way to learn and get better. And that's what I'm trying to do. So,
yeah. And there is from my experience anyway, and that's all I can ever speak from, is like what comes from inside me. It was like a growth process almost, which I think goes to learning leadership skills, because we are taught from a young age, like it's not good to make a mistake because we desire to grow and master things. And we even have mastermind, and everything is about mastery. So when we fail, it's almost like, oh, I haven't mastered yet. Ugh, this is an awful feeling. But the only way to master something is to fail a million times. Right. So we have to find that balance between it's okay to fail. And I think hearing the term fail forward makes me feel a lot better about failing, instead of feeling like, oh, no, this is not a good thing. And hearing someone say that you can get respect by being willing to say, oh, yeah, I'm not perfect. Because that wasn't always the case either. And now we're starting to recognize that that is the only way to growth.
And it's interesting because I think it really does connect a little bit to that concept, which I think is so vital as a leader, is resiliency. And I think I learned that, as you said, it really does, we're talking about build respect, because I think I learned that early as an attorney, because I would fail, so to speak, quote unquote, fail by losing a court hearing or something. And I would beat myself up and what did I do wrong? And the client's going to fire me. But then I realized that the skill that they ultimately then applauded me about, and I think they would say, well, this was one of the reasons they liked having me on the team, is that, well, you're not always going to win every hearing. And that's even more out of your control than some things. But it's okay, now this happened. What do we do next? And not just sitting back and waiting it, but coming to the client with here are our next steps about how we're going to bounce back. And we failed, but let's fail forward, right? And so I think that's where some of those early, I like to call it muscles, the fail forward muscle that also includes resiliency to be able to come back and say, okay, now we're going to go this way. I think it's connected. And I think it's all really important as a leader.
In our initial discussion, when we started diving into all of these things, some of what you pointed out was the need to go from inside out, like building those leadership skills from an internal perspective. When you say that, what does that mean for you? Like, how is the program kind of an inside to out type approach of a program?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And I think some of the reason I talk about that is because that's been my journey. As you said, Amber, so beautifully, I can only talk about my journey, and I've seen it what's worked for me. And even on the training manual, the concept of the Everybody Leads training program is 2 months. The first 2 months are focused on leading yourself. So there's a lot about what that looks like. And then the next 2 months are leading others. And then the final would be leading community. But I think it really starts back when I really thought of myself as a leader for the first time. And it was where it was a situation where I had failed. Interestingly enough, I was a very young lawyer. I'd been out about a year and had a mentor who was very gruff, could get very angry. And he put me on a project with another lawyer who probably had 5 or 6 years of experience, big financial type project. We've already talked about how financial stuff is not necessarily my best, but I'm plugging away. I do my part of it. The senior associate gets the project to the boss, and we're going about. I'm doing other things, and I viewed that time everything was very transactional to me. I got a project, I do it, I turn it in, I go to the next project. Well, then that afternoon, I hear my name paged around when I used to page around the office, and come to the boss's office, and both of us, the senior associate, myself, and he just starts yelling at us, and he's on the phone with a dozen other lawyers from around the country and just telling us that what we had done was wrong. And he tells the people on the phone, these idiots are going to stay up all night to get this fixed, which I'm not saying that's admirable leadership style, but that's what we, that's, right.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
That's very old school. I mean,
it's not heart leadership, right? But that's what I'm faced with. I'm thinking I'm going to lose my job. I mean, that whole thing about like failing. And of course, then we got it all fixed and we figured out what had been done. We got it turned in. Well, that was all in preparation for a court hearing the next morning. And I had drawn already the short straw to pick up the boss at his house to go to the court hearing. And it was about an hour drive. And I was like, oh, I'm dreading this. I'm going to be in the car with him. And to his credit, he apologized. He said, I should not have done that in front of other lawyers. And then he paused and I said, well, wow, this surprised me a little bit. And then he said, the reason I was so angry is because I see you, Tim, as a real leader, a real future. You have a real future in this profession, working together, and I just expect more of you. And here I was thinking, I was like, well, that guy was 5 years more experienced. It's his fault, right? But then he's saying, okay, no, Tim has to own this because I'm a leader, and he didn't say that about this other guy. So that really turned me around to think about myself as a leader. So then I said, well, how do I get better at this? Because I don't know what that means. And that's why I think it's so important about the inside out. I had to, and I love reading books. So I turned to some leadership resources. There weren't podcasts at the time, but there used to be, this shows me a little bit of books on tape and then ultimately books on CD. And I would do that, use my car as like my own mini MBA on leadership while I was driving to work every day. just to
Like
pour into
audible
myself.
before audible.
Yes, no, it was. That's exactly right. I know it's a long answer, but I think it all started with first the recognition that I was a leader, which I hadn't really ever thought about and not been told that, and then realizing, well, then I need to do something about this, and it was working from my inside out. And then of course it grows with like then when I got a few years out, I'm leading a young lawyer and leading a paralegal, and how I started to do things a little differently and all that. So anyway, that's kind of how I think the inside out is so important, because it was part of my journey.
And for me, it's like building anything. If we look at how we build structures, right? If we don't have a strong enough internal foundation, no matter how much you prop it up from the outside, it's going to cave in. And
Exactly right.
To see more and more the recognition that first we have to be strong internally. We need to know how to lead healthy lives. We need to know how to lead our own emotional balance. There are all of these things that go to it. And for someone like you who's leading an organization, there are all these individuals who are looking to you for guidance. And so for you to have taken the time to get yourself to that space and know, okay, I need to be strong internally so I can be like foundationally stable for all of these individuals to lean on me. And then I can show them how to be that for themselves so that I'm building strong foundational people all around me. If every organization did that, just imagine what we would be creating on a global scale.
I mean, and that's why I love a plug of you. That's why I love what you're doing, Amber, and building this community, because exactly that. Just think about that. And I totally agree, because fast forward, if I'm not at my best for the folks that I work with, then I can't lead effectively. And it means that, so now fast forward to what I've learned, as I got more opportunity to lead bigger groups, is to take the self-care. And I have some people think I'm a little bit too rigid about my daily disciplines that I try to go through, but it's so vital to me. I mean, it starts with, of course, good night's sleep and eating healthy. And then I've got to, in the morning, have things that I'm doing every day, some more inspirational type reading, and trying to get outside. I love to get out and run a little bit because I like being out in nature. Prayer and meditation, a part of that daily thought process and daily to get me ready and for the day ahead. And then knowing that I've got to build in space every week to kind of refuel, to not have to be on all the time, because I really am on all the time when I'm with others. I mean, as a leader, you'd like that. And so I really try to work in I've totally modified it to what works for me, but taking from some of my colleagues who really do weekly Sabbaths, very very focused about the timing. I try to unplug from Saturday at 5 o'clock to Sunday at 5 o'clock. That just works for me, and it doesn't always work. I keep track of it. I can get to about 75% of the weekends I get a time like that, but I keep trying to get better, because like it's exactly what you said, Amber. If you don't do it, then you can't help lead your other guy. Being very open about mental health and wellness. That I talk about. I meet with a therapist once a month or 6 weeks just to talk about things, a safe space. And he jokes that I'm his easiest patient because it's stuff around the edges, but I need to do stuff around the edges, right? If I realize things. So all that to say, it is critically important, and as a leader, it's the most important thing I do every day, because it makes me prepared to lead others.
Yeah. And just a willingness to be that open and transparent, that could inspire someone else.
Right.
Because I know as I grew up, mental health was not something that you could be open about. I don't know how you grew up, but I know for me, and I feel
exactly
like
the
for
same.
others, it's like if you're going to see someone, then that meant that you or someone in your family was probably a little off, and maybe you're not the one to hang out with right now.
Right.
And so then there's that whole aspect of vulnerability, and instead of where we're getting to, I think, as a collective whole, which is, okay, mental health is as important as our physical health. We need our mental and emotional health. And when you have someone who's in a leadership position like you or myself or others who are willing to come out and say, no, it's okay. Even I go see someone because I want to stay ahead of it. Prevention is better than having to go and repair. I don't want to repair. So
Right.
it's so nice to have that be a shift. But again, it comes from internal framework, right? And
It
if there's
does.
a tiny little crack in my foundation, it's easier to repair than if it's like this huge foundational issue.
Absolutely agree. And I mean, certainly the pandemic was, very stressful for everyone. For certainly the unknown of, like, let's say, the first month, and ultimately, obviously, it had disparate impact on different people. But generally, the legal profession, professional services organizations did okay. Ultimately, do all the the financial piece of it, but it was all the unknown at the beginning. And there, I remember vividly about 2 weeks in, and it was all the stuff about, how do we, have some temporary pay cuts, and do we have to put people on furlough because there's really nothing you can do because we don't need a catering person because nobody's going to the office, all that stress. And I finally, one Sunday, I just emailed our COO and a couple other leaders and said, next 2 hours I'm going to sit on my back porch and listen to music, because the cracks were there and I just knew I got it. I just had to get away. As something as simple as that. I mean, it doesn't have to be 2 hours, but I just literally walking outside where there's some trees and listening to a favorite album, that it helped that crack seal up, or at least keep it that just a crack, rather than expanding. So I love the analogy, Amber, and you're exactly right.
So, with all this experience that you have and what you're doing to put together this nonprofit organization, do you have written materials that people can access, or do you plan to create written materials that people can access?
Yes, I know this feels like, this is early, and it's the, what's that proverb? The plane, building the plane while it's flying. But I do have,
Uh-huh.
so I have a website that is launching any day. Hopefully, by the time the podcast is on, it'll be on there, and it will have some video content of just some basic leadership ideas as a starting point. I've got the 6 month training manual that will be on there. That we're now in testing it by actually using it, so it'll be the failing forward. I'll learn this works, this doesn't work. So we're in the process of leading some of that. And then I do have a book that I've written called Everybody Leads. That it's I just last night got the editors the draft, the comments back. So now I've got to find the time to work on that. But all that will be ultimately on everybodyleads.org, and as we keep moving it forward. So making progress.
Well, that's fantastic. Talk about living what you talk about. There's no better way to do that, right?
Yeah, that's
So,
right. Well, and it
so
really does all go back to that idea. I mean, literally, all of that. The book even started with the idea of, you got to start planting the seeds now for what you want to do. Then, while and I'm learning it's helping me become a better leader of Baker Donelson, because I'm thinking through these things and everything. So anyway.
yeah, how has it had a direct impact on the organization you lead now? And are you willing to talk a little bit about what Baker Donelson does? That way individuals can know not only what you're creating in your nonprofit, but also what you do on a day to day.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm glad. I love to talk about all that. So, on the high level, Baker Donelson, as you said, it's about 1,200 individuals across the Southeast, and it goes up to Baltimore and Washington D.C. I once had a client who said that they always called to hire me whenever they had an issue in the y'all states. And I'm originally from Philadelphia, although I'm in Alabama now and been here a long time, so my accent's probably mixed. But I thought that was pretty funny. And then when we had colleagues from Baltimore join us, they said, well, we're still below the Mason-Dixon line, so I guess we don't say y'all. But anyway, so we're there. We're a full service corporate law firm. Our primary industries that we're most well known on are representing healthcare organizations that provide everything from hospital systems and long-term care facilities, and provide healthcare opportunities, and also financial services representing banks, financing sources. And then we've got just a whole host of individuals who focus on corporate transactional work, litigation, and a lot of different areas. So I'm very proud of our colleagues and all we're doing there. But I think how it all connects up is, it's been interesting as I've been thinking about what are the kind of important concepts that I would want to build into the book and the training manual, in sort of helping, if I was starting from scratch and helping individuals try to get better at leadership. It really has honed some ideas in my own leadership, and as we've launched this vision last April for the firm, and a lot of the concepts there that really are built on really not necessarily anything new under the sun. It's all about how we can take what the learnings are from long in the past and make it ours. And I really focused on this idea of how can we become better trusted advisors to all of our clients? And that's not a new concept, but it really can be a differentiator when we know them and know their industry and what they're trying to accomplish. And really, some of the things I talk to our colleagues about is we can all get we should be feeling proud and feel purpose that if we're helping organizations on the front line of serving, in the healthcare industry. Particularly think about the last several years. I mean, we really are helping in a small way change the world by helping them accomplish their stuff. So it really all does build in, and it's made me a better leader, just as I had to go back and really think about how would I think about the basic leadership skills, and am I doing it? Am I living it out? And we just had a leadership meeting this past weekend where we had 50 of our leaders together in Nashville, and I was talking about this idea about how we're all influencers and how we influence everyone we come in contact with, and we can do it for the good or for the bad. And different tips and tricks I've had about how we can really be intentional about it. Well, that's a basic leadership concept that will, I'm sure, somewhere find its way into my materials for everybody leads. So it really is helping me just to think about it and get better at it.
And I think that's a primary thing. We'll hear sometimes that you're not saying anything that I haven't heard in religion or that I haven't heard from a self-help and it's correct. There isn't anything, there's the saying, there isn't anything new under the sun. It's just the way that you package it.
Right.
But maybe it isn't new to you, but are you stepping into action with it? There's a difference between saying it and embodying it. There's a difference between putting it into practice in your life and knowing that it's a concept that's out there. So what we're talking about and what you're doing is taking it from, all right, here's a concept that we all know that it's important that we lead our lives with integrity. Right. Okay. So what does that mean? And how are you actionably doing that every day? What is one thing that you're doing every day to lead your life with integrity? And how are you showing up that way each and every day? And so a lot of people are just like, whoa, okay, well, I know I should lead a life with integrity, but now you're putting me on the spot to say, how am I doing that every day and repeatedly every day? Well, that's going to create a habit that then becomes a personality trait that then becomes part of who I am. And so it is different than just saying, all right, well, you're not telling me anything new.
I love that. I love that so much. As a matter of fact, the part of the program I did about influence. I said, my whole goal for the next 35, 40 minutes is I want you to find one or two max things that I say that either is a reminder you need to start doing again, or it's something that you hadn't thought about to do. And literally, that's the whole purpose, not to just sit back, Tim's talking for 30 minutes. It's find the actionable thing. So I totally agree that, and I use that phrase, and I really try to get better every day. What does that mean? Well, it can mean a lot of different things, but it's like I'm trying to learn, I'm trying to be curious, trying to get feedback to then put something into practice that's going to help me and then the organization get better. So totally agree with what you said, Amber.
Well, thank you. And likewise. So as you're taking all of this that you're learning from Baker Donelson and from yourself and from your time in these communities, how do you see yourself rolling it out into these communities? Do you have a strategy for taking it into the communities and delivering it?
It's a great question, and we have been meeting with, and I have an intern that I've been paying to help build some of this out, and it's been great. She's a junior in college, so it's been good leadership building for her to just think about, and she's set up meetings with nonprofits. Really, just started locally here, just because it was easier to think through. Again, is there a need for this type of materials, for these types of materials? And now we're really. And they first feedback was, yes, we think this would be really helpful. One of the organizations said, we'd love for you to come and teach the leaders of our nonprofit, so then we can help lead the people we're trying to lead. The other few that we've talked to, really, we're talking about the communities they serve. Some are inner city youth is one. Another is really focused on, again, trying to eradicate homelessness, that kind of community. And then I've done a couple times where I've gone in to teach some of the concepts at a prison, and there does seem to be some value there. I was supposed to be going into a prison this Friday, to work with a team that does a lot of production. They try to, several prisons work on the rehabilitation side of it. And there is one that I was going to work with, or I am going to work with, I was supposed to go Friday, that they've got a team that does production videos, and they've got training and they're learning how to do that, to have those skills when they leave. And they film things around the prison and things, but they've now shut the prison down for quarantine because of COVID. So it doesn't look like I'm going to get to go visit, but that's kind of how I'm starting to build those connections. It's always going to be partnering with somebody else and a need that's going to help them to then advance what they're trying to do in the communities they serve. So
if anybody is listening to
Yes.
this and they feel like there's a partnership opportunity, you would be open to. I'm thinking there are boys and girls clubs here that we've talked to that are very open to programs. So even an organization like that might be, because they're all around.
Absolutely. And that's the thing that I don't come in saying this is how it should be and this is what works. I mean, I know one of the organizations is talking about just doing a one-off kind of 45-minute discussion about taking some of the concepts, right? And not the 6 months of the. So it really is learning. And I'm trying to figure out like, what is the need, not what should Tim do, right? So I absolutely agree about like an organization like that. And they do great work everywhere. So,
Okay.
and yes, to answer your question, I would love to connect and talk about opportunities and needs.
Fantastic. And the way that they could get a hold of you if they're interested?
Yes. Well, my email address is Lupinacci, Lupinacci at BakerDonelson.com. And I know there'll be some information, or just search the Baker Donelson website and I'm on there. And then be looking for everybodyleads.org and I'll have my contact information there. I'm on LinkedIn and I've got an Instagram account starting to build it. So that's probably, don't go there yet.
It's coming.
Yes, I know. Yeah.
Well, we will make sure that it's all posted with this podcast as well. But it's just helpful if someone's listening and they want to write it down to be able to have it as well. But we'll make sure that it's there for reference too, if they'd like to come back to it.
Yes. Yes. That'd be great. Appreciate that.
And if it's not something that they want to bring in, you will have the materials like the book. Do you have an estimated time frame on the release of your book? Probably within like the next 6 months to year?
My goal is calendar 2023. So yes, but I bet it'll be the latter half. So
okay. Well, that's fantastic. And will it only be available on your website, or are you planning to make it available through Amazon?
Yes, I mean it's way ahead of me, but yes, my vision is that it would be more widely disseminated, and I mean the overall vision of it all is that if it were to make any money, that money would then fund everybodyleads.org. So that is the vision, and what that looks like in the next year. We'll see, but stay tuned.
Exactly. We leave it up to the fates, but
that's right.
At least we would know that they could find it on your website and potentially find it through Amazon, which is kind of a good go-to.
Yes, of course.
And is it something that you're going to bring into your own organization?
Like the teaching and the training. Well, it is interesting because I have used some of the concepts and what I've written already in some of my messaging that I've done. And some of it actually some of the content built out of during COVID, during the pandemic. We ultimately did daily videos to our colleagues around the firm. It didn't start out to be daily. I was doing weekly ones as I became the new CEO, called Baker Next Weekly, just to let what's next. And then we ended up doing it daily during the pandemic, because first it was about information about the systems work if you work from home and how you can get help and all this kind of stuff. And then it ultimately just became a lot of times for encouragement, for news, for information. And I really loved building out content with trying to do a value add in my content. And so some of those stories and some of those principles that even started in those videos have found their way into the content of the book. So it's kind of going full circle. And then I'm taking other ideas and we're talking to people at the firm about it. So yeah, I am using it.
And that's fantastic, because what it does is it provides real life experience for people too, where it's not like, oh, this sounds really good in theory.
Right. Exactly.
It's like, well, it's not just good in theory. We have proven real world experience utilizing these techniques where then you can apply it and know it's not going to be exactly the same because the situation isn't exactly the same. But at least it has some meat to it because it has been utilized in other scenarios. I don't have a lot of experience in a law firm. I have zero, actually, to be completely transparent.
That's good for you, because that's right.
But I would imagine there are days where there's high stress.
Oh, all the time. Yeah. Yes. Matter of fact, the leadership meeting we had a licensed psychologist talking to our group about suicide and really identifying the signs, because the legal profession has like a double the average impact because of that stress and pressure if people don't really do the self-care. So it is something that's very difficult. It is a very high stress profession.
I can only imagine when I put myself compassionately into that position. I can't imagine. You guys are like in between so many different aspects of needing to have that intellect and that knowing of a system. And you have the legal system that's pressuring. You have clients who are pressuring. You have corporations who are pressuring. When I sit and kind of feel into it, I'm like, I don't know how you do what you do. But if you have these leadership techniques that you're utilizing in your own organization and it's helpful, then I would estimate if it's helping you, it would definitely help me in a lower pressure situation, be able to navigate my own way through what I'm navigating myself through. So I love that.
Does seem like, you're right. It would seem like that. Well, I know one thing I'm just thinking about real quickly is like, and I can't remember where I heard this from. Someone talked about having a micro resiliency, like first aid kit in your office, which are just little things that you're in the middle of a stress, you can look at, and it will remind you about something that kind of takes your mind away. And, maybe it's a picture of a family member, or like, I know I was able to take my daughter to Coachella when she was a senior in high school. And so I have a little box from Coachella is in my microaggression kit, and a playbill from Hamilton, because I really love arts. But that's something that I keep over here, like if, when I'm having that kind of day, I can just look at it and go, okay, well, Lisa Catherine and I, precious time together. And you can just take that deep breath. So things like that I think do help. And I've talked about that in the firm, do help in this stressful profession. I think that's just stuff that helps everyone, right? Can do that. So anyway, I agree with you.
Yeah. And I think that would be, I don't know if you have a blog yet or just anything, but just little summaries like that can help people have one identifiable thing that they can do weekly that just helps. We call it our toolbox. So at Clevera, we have a little toolbox that you can build out to have, that you can carry around for any different thing. But I think it's just so important to have that kind of thing, first aid kit, toolbox, whatever it is for you. All right, I'm in this high pressure situation. What do I have that I can rummage through? Like Hermione's bag, if you're a Harry Potter fan, you just pull it right out. And this is the one thing I need.
Yes. Oh, I love that. I love, everything you just said is amazing. And that is the first content I mentioned. There were short video clips that will be on the website, which are a lot of those tips, 2-minute tips about how, how encouraging someone else can help you then, be encouragement to you, and little micro toolkit theories. So that's what's going to be, I'm going to be putting those on there regularly and releasing those with some of these ideas. So yes, thank you for that encouragement.
Thank you for doing this. I can honestly say, coming up through a corporate environment, we were always instructed that CEOs were off limits, right? It was always separate from the rest of the organization. And some individuals that I've met recently, like yourself, who are breaking that mold. You are showing a different way of being a leader, that it isn't, I'm separate from the rest of the organization and everyone under me takes care of whatever is going on. It's showing those who are building up the organizations that they matter. And it gives them something to strive for, and that the mission as a whole is meaningful for everyone, not just one side or the other. And so I can't tell you how much it means to me to see individuals like you stepping out and showing and leading in a different way. So I thank you from the ebbs of my soul in every way I can. So,
well, that's so encouraging. I really, it makes the tough times of the day worthwhile because of that kind of encouragement, because I fundamentally totally believe it, that that's the reason to do what we do, is because we can all work together. And so thank you.
and then to take that knowledge and awareness and build out leadership programs to help others understand what's possible. Again, it goes back to, how do we fundamentally change the world? It isn't
Right.
by going out to change the world, it's by changing your world. And then that ripples out. And suddenly that is, like, before we know it, in a lifetime, we can change the world, our worlds at a time. And so
Totally agree. Yes.
thank you
Yes.
for
So
being
wise. No, well, thank you. I hope everyone just heard what you said, because that's something I had to learn. I've always had this idea, I got to change the world. And then I kind of get, down on myself. Well, I'm never going to do that. And then it clicked on me about 15 years ago about that, exactly what you said, Amber, but I can change my world. And then, as you said, as you start changing the individuals around you, your world becomes even a little bigger, and you can influence others for the good. And so leading with love. And so, yes, thank you for sharing that.
So as we prepare to wrap up here, I would really like to hear from you, this massive heart leader that you are. But obviously, you are also an intellect. You have to have quite a bit of intellectual manpower going on in order to lead the organization that you're leading in the legal aspect. How do you blend heart and mind in order to drive these things forward? And what does that even bring forward for you? Like, what do you feel when you hear yourself being called a heart leader?
Well, I'm learning to better accept praise, but just somebody affirming me, I guess, because it's hard for me to do that, because I'm just doing what I'm doing and I'm just being me. And so the first thing when someone says something like that, I'm like, well, I appreciate that, but I'm just Tim, right? But no, I think it does. There's some of the I like acronyms and mantras that I really just run through my head each day, while I'm running or whatever, just because I think it keeps me grounded in things that are important to me, and little phrases I picked up from different places. But one of them I try to do every morning is to be, kind, compassionate, humble, have quiet strength. I mean, you need that strength, and to be disciplined, be even tempered, be content with second place, be forgiving, and above everything else, to put on, I saw this written this way, put on the full garment of love. And so that's kind of, I start there and just remind myself and I don't, as we've talked about, that's what I try to do, and I make mistakes, but I really recommit. And so then it's interesting, as I was thinking about, my daughter got engaged New Year's Eve and is getting married next February. And I know a lot of times you go to weddings and they go through the, love is patient, love is kind kind of, thoughts, or it's written in the program. And so then when I think about that idea of a garment of love, I think about some of those concepts. And then I've also thinking about the intersection that when you really think about some of those concepts from that phrasing as you hear at weddings, what if you implemented the word leadership? And that's like leading with love, right? Leadership is patient. Leadership is kind. Leadership does not envy, does not boast, is not proud. Leadership doesn't dishonor others, or it's not self-seeking. It's not easily angered, or it keeps no record of wrong. Leadership, or love, always, protects, trusts, hopes, perseveres. Love never fails. Leadership never fails. We do fail, but we learn from it and get better. So I think I just go through that with myself each morning, and it just helps keep me grounded. So I don't know if that's helpful, but I think everyone's got to figure out how they can help stay grounded in trying to be a heart leader. But those are just some ideas about how I try to get grounded every day.
I'm going to adopt that.
Please do. I mean, it just kind of.
Yes, I say that to myself every day. The love is patient, love is kind.
Yeah.
I hadn't stepped back and thought, that can apply to leadership too. So that's really brilliant. Thank you for bringing that forward.
Well, sure. Like I said, and as we started, it almost feels full circle. it's what we're walking, right? Our journey. I happen to have a daughter who's going to get married, so I've been thinking about that stuff. And of course, I'm launching Everybody Leads, and then it just, it all comes together because I was thinking about things, right? So anyway, so I'm glad to,
Yeah, what that does is it takes the ego out of the leadership aspect. Because yes, we have to have a healthy balance of ego, but if the reason we're leading is to have it be all about me, then we're forgetting what we're doing as leaders. It's about going first to pave the way for others and then getting out of the way. And so it's a beautiful way to say, no, this isn't about me. This is about what I'm doing to be in service of the people I'm here for. So Thank you for sharing that. Now, let's make sure individuals know once more time what your websites are and how they can get a hold of you.
Baker Donelson, Donelson, BakerDonelson.com. And then Everybody Leads, spelled as you would with an S on the end, everybodyleads.org. And my contact information will be on both of those websites, and would love to connect. And I'm on Instagram, so under my name, Tim Lupinacci.
Fantastic. And we'll make sure it is all on there. Are there any other items that we haven't covered that you would like to share with our community as we take these final moments?
No, I just want to thank you, and just so encouraging to talk to you and to learn from you. So this has been a real value, just a real blessing to my day. So thank you very much, Amber.
Same with me. I cannot wait to see how this continues to unfold. And please keep our community up to date, because I know that there will be so many individuals who would love to reach out and connect and take part in these programs that you're creating. So as it continues to unfold and your book is available, have you back on to talk about the book.
That would be great. I would love that. It would be an honor. So no, that's good. Good.
And thank you. Amazing community. We absolutely love sharing this time with you. I am your host, Amber, and we are here on the Heart Leader podcast, where heart and mind align. Don't forget, every month you have access to that free tool. So pop on over to sweetera.org and sign up to download. And you also now can sign up for our membership programs. So take a moment and check those out. And while you're doing that, don't forget to pop on over and check out Tim at everybodyleads.org. Until next time, I'll see you in the Sweetera community.